In this xenophobic attacks, the Black South African is a victim too. He reminds me of this story of a horse that was tied up at a spot for a really long time. And then one day, just like that, he was released and he could, for the first time in a really long time, do whatever he wanted, go wherever he wanted. But guess what? The horse did not know what to do with himself. That is the story of the Black South African.
It's not us he hates. It's not the Nigerians or any other African. It's himself that he hates. You know, oppression, it messes with your mind. And the oppressions such as the kind that the Black South Africans were subjected to under apartheid, that was plain catastrophic. For you to truly understand what's going on in South Africa right now, you need to understand the psychology of oppression. These attacks, they're not about oppression. They're not about any of the things that the South Africans are yapping about. They're not about the fact that Nigerians and other Africans are taking up their jobs. They're not about the fact that the Black South African is trying to become economically relevant in his own country. No. If this were the case, then it's not the blacks that they would attack. Because realistically speaking, it's not the blacks that are keeping them from accessing these things. So what the Black South Africa really seeks, just like any other oppressed group would, is to be like the oppressor. Well, research has shown that the oppressed people would give anything to resemble the oppressor, because they tend to see in their oppressor a worthy role model to imitate. So that is the true story of what's going on with the Black South African. And in these kinds of dysfunctional system, it's the weak among them that suffer the most. Look at how they treat their women. So what you call xenophobia is anything but xenophobia. Because xenophobia is the dislike or prejudice against people of other countries. Now, South Africans do not hate people of other countries. Have you seen them attack non-Africans? Or do we not have non-Africans living in South Africa? This is self-hate, and it is a direct consequence of the torture that the Black South Africa went through under apartheid. They're killing you because they see themselves in you. Only that you're not carrying as much baggage, and so they hate you even more. And you know, to a large extent, most Black South Africans empathize with these attacks. Most of them are not against these attacks. Have you seen the videos? Have you seen how they stand and watch and do nothing as people get butchered and burnt alive? Have you seen how the police laugh? Have you watched the video of the deputy police minister? We heard what he had to say about these attacks. Just take a listen.
Question arises, and we must investigate also what is the law of South Africa says. How can a city in South Africa be 80% foreign nationals? That is dangerous. That in Hillbrow and the surrounding areas, South Africans have surrendered their own city to the foreign nationals. The nation should discuss that particular question. You won't find South Africans in other countries dominating the city into 80%. Because if we do not debate that, that necessarily means the whole South Africa could be 80% dominated by foreign nationals, and the future president of South Africa could be a foreign national. We are surrendering our land. And it is not xenophobia to talk truth. We fought for this land from a white minority. We cannot surrender it to the foreign nationals.
Now, what has the South African government, or what has South Africa done to tell the world, to tell us that that man that just spoke does not represent them? That he's not saying things that stand for what they stand for? Nothing. So you're kidding yourself if you're thinking that these attacks are only about the South Africans picking up arms, because this psychological damage is much more widespread than that. It's just that some people are not gutsy enough to actually pick up arms themselves. And it's a rather sad situation. It's a situation that should have been addressed 25 years ago with apartheid ended. You know, if South Africa really wanted to heal post-apartheid, they would have been deliberate about rehabilitating the Black South African after apartheid ended. But they did not. They simply just said that the Black South African should forget about what happened to him or his parents and just move on. How is that even possible? I mean, who heals that way? Not when you're still living under the economic and social marginalization that is a result of the structural legacy left behind by apartheid. Are you even kidding me? Have you seen the stats? They are damning. South Africa is the most racially unequal country in the world. And this reflects in almost all spheres of well-being. So if you're looking at unemployment, the Black South African has 31.4% unemployment rate among them, whilst their white counterparts have just 6.6%. If you're talking earnings, the average earning of the white South African is 5 times larger than the average earning of the Black South African. I mean, it keeps going on and on. And now, these stats, this situation is not entirely the fault of the Black South African. Because if you're looking at the fact that apartheid just barely ended 25 years ago, that's like 1994, and that most of the people that went through the brunt of apartheid are still alive today, are still in their prime ages, then you would understand that they are still living the impacts, the effects of apartheid. You know, during apartheid, the black man was deliberately kept ignorant. The education he was given was ridiculous. According to Trevor Noah in his book, Born a Crime, he actually said that in the Ubuntu schools, being the schools that were built by the apartheid government for blacks to get educated in, the blacks were taught how to count potatoes, how to pave roads, how to chop wood. Well, ridiculous skills like that. And in their defense, in defending this kind of education for the black man, what they had to say was that the black man, it wouldn't serve the black man to learn science or mathematics because it was primitive. And so it would not serve him any purpose for him to be exposed to pastures over which he was not allowed to graze. Just look at that. And so you find that even though apartheid has ended and everyone is now allowed to apply to whatever kind of jobs they want, the black South African who went through this kind of education cannot apply for jobs except the menial ones. And so he earns menial pay. And then he has kids that he has to educate. And because he earns menial pay, there is a certain quality of education that he can give his kids. Now his kids graduate from school and the white South African who has better education also graduates, and they meet in the same job market competing for the exact same jobs. Who gets the better paying job? The white South African. And so the black South African gets the lesser job, and then he does this menial job or this lesser paying job, and then the circle just keeps going on and on, this vicious circle of poverty. The real question then is, what can be done to heal the Black South African? What can be done to make him feel a sense of belonging in his own country? What can be done to make him feel valued and loved? So if you've got ideas, head to the comment section and let's hear them. But until then, please, if you're a Nigerian living in South Africa, I beg of you, come back home. Because these attacks may be contained in the short term, but unless the roots are addressed, they're going to keep on reoccurring. So your best bet at this point is to come back home and keep praying for the healing of the Black South African.
Thank you for watching my video. Please click the like button if you like what I shared, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so that you do not miss out on anything that I share. Until next time, thank you so much.